Greetings and welcome to The Thirsty Mage, the podcast that used to be the dominant of alcohol before an unfortunate bar fight with Clive Rossfield. I'm your host, David Lloyd, and the man that can't believe it took this long for someone else to podcast, someone else on this podcast to play Final Fantasy XVI. You'd think that a podcast that features Square Enix games, around 50% of our episodes, would have been all over this one, but it's been that kind of summer. It's just been kind of weird. There's been a whole lot of stuff coming out. We had a lot of big time releases all within like the span of a month or two, really. So we're now a couple months after the release, almost about a month and a half after it came out, and I got one other person with me that we're going to talk about. It's going to be mostly spoiler free. Anything story wise that we talk about will be pretty early on, so otherwise it'll be pretty generic. But the person with me is the icon of podcasting, Casey Gibson.
Whew, I don't know if I'm that dominant of a podcaster, but finally getting around to some 16 talk. I had actually originally, we were just talking before we started recording when it came out and how it was almost 2 months. And I'm like, what are you talking about? But then I wasn't taking into the account that I got it like 3 weeks, I think, after launch, because I had a family vacation and I didn't feel like starting it, going on vacation for a week and then sort of losing my spot. So it took me a little bit of time to get there. But yeah, so many good games, right? We had, I almost called it Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, Diablo 4, obviously Final Fantasy, Pikmin, a lot of really great games that just popped out. And I'm juggling like all of those games right now. Well, not so much Zelda. It's so weird. It's like one of those games where like when I'm playing it, I'm like, this is amazing. And you the classic Breath of the Wild situation where it's like, oh, let me go here. And then you find, a million shrines and Koroks and all this, that, and the other thing. And you end up doing nothing towards the main quest, right? But you spend a bunch of hours. So it was still getting that feeling, but like just my desire to get in and play it was just not there. Like I'd be like, I don't really feel like playing it, even though I know once I got into it, I'd be excited. So yeah. One of these days, I got to get back to that. D4's got season 1 coming out, or came out, recently. So I've been playing that on a new character. Tons of hours. And then I was going to wait for Pikmin until after I finished 16, but that didn't happen. And Pikmin 4 is super good. But the good thing is I feel like that's like a really, like 16 and Pikmin are like sort of good games to juggle with one another. Pikmin more getting in there, doing some more like, fast-paced sort of strategy stuff. This a little bit more of a slow burn with some, lots of really great, story stuff. But yeah, no, it's definitely been a crazy summer. Lots of really good games and just not enough time.
Yeah, I would say that the only reason I was able to get to Final Fantasy 16 right away was because I didn't pick up Tears of the Kingdom or D4.
Because you're a Final Fantasy fanboy is what you mean.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a Final Fantasy stan or whatever. All completely obligated to pick it up on release day. It was actually funny. I almost missed out on getting it on release day because I pre-ordered the deluxe edition, and I needed it to be mailed to me. But Best Buy was supposed to mail it to my work, and then it like didn't show up until about 5 minutes before I was about to leave. So I was a little panicked. I'm like, I have to go home, but I want my game. Yeah, it was right before a long weekend, and
a weird feeling. I don't want to leave work on a Friday. Like what?
Yeah. So I just got it as I was leaving town. So I had it in my hands for like 3 days while I was with the family, and by the time I got back, I was roaring to go. So yeah, I had I was able to play through it, and it was tough though because in the last, I think I was near the end, and at that point, what's it called? Trails into Reverie I had just got that delivered because I had that on pre-order too. So I was like, no, just finish it. You're almost done.
Are you interested in Baldur's Gate at all?
Yeah, I am. If I hadn't just started Trails into Reverie, I'd probably pick up Baldur's Gate because I've heard a lot of good things. But
it's weird because I'm not like, I remember back in the day, like way back in the day, sleeping over my friend's house, and like he was big into Baldur's Gate 2. I believe it was 2 at the time. Actually, now I'm curious. But and you know, I was playing Diablo 2, and I'm like, yeah, like Baldur's Gate, like it sort of seems cool, but I don't know, man. Like it's like slow paced, you know.
Yeah.
But watching some gameplay of 3, it looks really, really good. Now, it doesn't come out for PlayStation for another month.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's released on
It's just
Steam
okay.
or
Yeah, I saw it
PC,
came out
whatever.
yesterday, but yeah, I didn't realize it was only on Steam yesterday.
Yeah, well, I was like thinking about it, right? So I'm like, I mean, I wouldn't have picked it up within the week here. Like, I'm definitely going to finish 16 and Pikmin before I move on to any more games. But I was thinking about it, like, that actually might be perfect that it's an extra month. Maybe pick it up on PlayStation. It'll probably look better than what my computer is going to be able to do. You know what I mean? So that might be something to look forward to in another month or so.
Yeah, well, I played a lot of Divinity Original Sin 2, which is made by Larian, who's the developer of Baldur's Gate 3. So I was thinking, like, yeah, I'll probably enjoy it. So
Yeah, and they've been sort of getting shared around Twitter and stuff, or at least a screenshot from their FAQ, and it's like, you know, is there any in-game, you know, purchases or this, that, the other thing, and they like pretty much to like nope, like we believe in like you buy the game and we're gonna give you all the goods. So they're right now, of course, the you know, it's such a long game that early impressions, you know, it you know, in a month, people might be thinking a little differently in the game. But right now, it feels like sort of like a Witcher 3 CD Projekt Red, where it's like they're on top of the mountain, you know, like everyone's singing their praise.
yeah, I'm looking
But
forward to it.
yeah, who knows? Maybe we would you pick it up on PC or would you get it on PlayStation?
It's tough. Like I'm kind of with you. Like the PlayStation is gonna have better graphics than my PC, but just having it on Steam Deck, like portably, is
That's
enticing.
appealing
So
too. And it, like, to me, I guess, you know, again, Baldur's Gate to me has always been a PC game. Same with Diablo. So like Diablo translates super well to a controller. I don't know. I'd be curious to see how they can, you know, sort of finagle it, if it'd be easy or not. But you know, by all accounts, the game seems to be really great. So I'm assuming they probably, you know, figured out a pretty good control scheme.
yeah, well, PlayStation 5 has keyboard and mouse support anyway, so like
Oh, you could just plug it in.
you could just plug it in.
Well, there you go.
As long as the game, I think, as long as the game has it set up properly, which I don't, it should because it's on PC.
Yeah.
But because I remember when I picked up Final Fantasy XIV on PS4, I connected a keyboard and mouse and played that way.
Yeah, you know what? I think I've done that too, actually, for on the PS5, actually, with Final Fantasy XIV. So
yeah,
well, maybe that'll be something we look into come September, and maybe we'll dig into it.
Yeah, look forward to that and Starfield and Sea of Stars and.
I don't know. I guess Starfield just never interested me. Like, I know it's super hyped and everything, but I don't know. I'm not a big space guy, you know.
Yeah. I'm a little skeptical. I'm hoping it's good, but
it's gonna be buggy.
Oh, that's a guarantee. That's for sure.
Yeah, there will be certainly some good memes and gifs going around. That's for sure.
Oh, there'll definitely be spaceships flying backwards. Absolutely.
Yeah, clipping through everything, and oh god.
Yeah, you'll just see a moon or something. All of a sudden, like a fleet of ships will go right through it, like it wasn't even there.
Yep. And it won't be fixed on this version or the 50th definitive edition.
No, you'll have to. There'll be a partial fix on like the 4th edition that you'll have to pay extra for.
That breaks like 4 other things, though.
Yeah,
like it'll fix that, you know. But
fixes one problem, causes 4 more.
Yeah, classic.
Well, yeah, I guess we'll get into the topic of the episode, Final Fantasy 16. So again, just to let people know, so I finished the game, but I won't be spoiling anything. And Casey's he's probably about halfway or a third or so there. So Casey can't spoil anything past
Yeah.
that point. I'm sure we'll talk about a few story beats along the way, but yeah, I guess Casey, why don't you start off with your initial impressions so far? This is quite a different Final Fantasy than what we're used to.
Oh yes, very different. I guess all right. First thing that is going to jump off the page, right, is just game looks really, really great. The characters, I think, all look really interesting. Like they're like how they look, their armors and stuff, the different areas you're visiting, the monsters, all that good stuff. PS5 exclusive, so you sort of knew it was going to be looking really nice. And they definitely achieved that. As you were saying, right? Yeah, definitely different when it comes to combat, right? This is a purely action RPG. There is no turn-based business. It is all action and go, 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 which, sort of for a mainline Final Fantasy, a little different. For me, I'm enjoying the combat, but it's not something that is like, oh my God, I love this. It's so much fun. It feels good. You sort of have like your comboing abilities you can sort of do. You've got, sort of build up or not build up. They almost remind me of like arts from Xenoblade, right? Like they're your sort of bigger skills that have little cooldowns attached to them. And then as the game progresses, you unlock, sort of different, and I don't know how spoil. I guess it's not really spoiler. Different aspects, essentially. We'll go with that, right? And like so, your character Clive, the main character here, is sort of a fire aspect. So he does some fire abilities, but then you'll get, as the game progresses, you'll unlock, wind or this, that, and the other thing, and you can switch on the fly, which is nice. So, yeah, it's not, that I wouldn't say it's reinventing the wheel when it comes to combat, but it's nice, but what's really great is the characters and the story in general. I think has been really what is the driving factor here, right? Like again, I'm enjoying the combat. It's not like I ever sort of like, oh man, I got to go fight some guys. But I think the driving point in this game is definitely going to be the characters and the story. Like I said, even just sort of like, oh, the first enemy of the game, right, or the first boss, quote unquote. She's memorable. And it's something that it's like, oh, you go and you dispose of the boss, and then all of a sudden it's like, dang, like that was a pretty awesome character that was in the game for a couple hours, really.
Yeah. Well, I think it's safe to. We should talk about her a bit. I think it's safe to talk about her because she's in the demo, and you kind of see some of her ending in the demo. But yeah, I'll just
Benedicta.
Benedicta, yeah, the
good name
dominant
too.
of wind, the Garuda. But yeah, I'll just echo the same. Like it looks incredible. I think this is some of the best voice acting I've seen in the game. Like it's terrific.
Yeah, and it's funny, right? Like just to touch on the voice acting real quick. When games curse, like a lot of the times it feels like forced almost, right? Where it's like, oh yeah, they're trying to be gritty and real. But it just comes out like, cringy. But yeah, even here, right? Like they're dropping F-bombs, and it never feels weird. All the characters, different accents, and yeah, no, definitely just the presentation in general.
Well, it feels natural. Like it's like, of course, someone would swear in that situation. Like something bad really happened, and he's
some
really
crazy
mad.
Stuff's going down.
Yeah, like well, that's the thing is, I think, and this is one of the parts that I love about the game is that it's very emotional. Like there's very, very like highs and lows throughout the game. Things get dark, things get good. Like it's
comedic at times too, right? Like it's not just not all doom and gloom or happiness. There's some levity and different heart-filled moments. And again, I'm only like I said, maybe a third to a halfway in between that done with the game, and I'm sure there's gonna be a lot more coming as the story sort of ramps up.
Yeah, well, and it's funny too, and I think the biggest thing for me too is that you can kind of really feel this. There's two influences I feel like obviously Yoshi P has a big influence. Like I feel a lot of the Final Fantasy 14 vibes throughout the story, And the other thing is, you can feel Sony's presence on the game. Like I know Sony did a lot of work with Square to because you can kind of see how they did like a lot of stuff with the controller because
Yeah.
there's a lot of tactile feelings with the controller. Like they
Make
certainly
sure
did a
they
lot there.
gotta hold the trigger down to open the important
Yeah,
doors.
that's right. Yeah. So you can see like them wanting to get that stuff in, but then the experience feels kind of Sony, in that plays like a movie feeling. Like it was very close to. It reminded me of playing The Last of Us 2,
Mm.
where it's like
Yeah, like a Naughty Dog game.
yeah, like where it has like this big story and you get really involved in the characters. And the combat was fine, but it wasn't like the focal point of the game. Like it was more of a means to an end sort of thing. um at least for me it was. I'm sure there's like some combo hungry action RPG people that would enjoy kind of
Tinkering around.
tinkering with it or breaking the system or whatever. But I mean, for me it was just like, yeah, it's fun. Like I'm not bored. but, but
There are definitely some battles, and I don't know if it's just maybe I'm just getting lucky in certain times, or maybe just depending on the number of enemies, it just happens to flow extra well. But there have been battles where it's like, man, I'm just cruising. Like I'm, going over this guy, banging him with a couple of moves, using that Phoenix whatever to like zoom to the other guy, knock him around, and just like you feel like a superhero almost, right? Like it was like, oh man, I am just unleashing. And like when it hits that point, it feels super good. And like I find myself sort of even getting jacked up. And usually it's a little bit more during like a boss battle, right? Where it's like obviously, the tensions are higher as it is, the stakes are higher. So it's, obviously I'll be a little bit more excited for it. But I'm sure, like you said, there are probably people out there who have mastered different combos where, they can make all these battles feel really fluid, and just real badass, if you will. But
yeah.
for me, like you said, I don't know if it's one of those things I'm gonna like, oh, I want to jump in and like, spend an hour in the menu looking at my different abilities and seeing how. And I find myself almost, I haven't done it in probably like 5 hours. Like gone and upgraded my abilities with my ability of points, right?
Yeah.
Just because like half the time I'm like, I don't know if I should upgrade this, and like having now played more, like I know what abilities I use more often, so I guess I could just go in there and upgrade those. But yeah, I definitely find myself more like, all right, well, I don't mind the combat, but I don't really want to get too deep into it. Like, you know what I mean? I just want to get from point A to B, and they definitely make that easy because there's not a whole lot in between point A and B usually.
No, like pretty much everywhere is like there is open maps in a sense. I would almost liken it to Final Fantasy 12, where it's like there's individual places, but when you like get on the map, they're mostly like an alleyway almost. Like it's like you start from this end and you can go to this end, and there might be a little bit in between, but not much. Like
there might be a potion over to the right.
Yeah, you're not getting lost. I guess that's the way to put it. Like
yeah, well, it's funny because I mean, it's well known I'm not a huge open world RPG or open world guy. So when people were sort of talking about this early on, was like, yeah, it's sort of pretty linear. I was like, that doesn't bother me at all. I'm cool with that. I do wish in the linearity of it all, there was still a little bit more to do. Like sometimes you're going through whatever area and there's doors sort of all over, and you go up and you're like, oh yeah, like all of these doors don't do anything except for the one door that has like the little white circle that when you get over there, the X button's in or whatever, And it would be nice if, like they just maybe fleshed some of those areas out more where, oh, like, I could go into that house and, maybe there's a chest in there, or maybe there's just an NPC at the table, reading or drinking a coffee. I don't know, whatever. So it definitely, I do notice that, when you're going around, it really is like, oh, like there might be a left turn that goes to an end of a hallway where there's a little chest and then you run back out. It's not like you're going in the hallway and then like, oh, well, there's like, 4 or 5 different little buildings here I could sort of go look into. Again, it doesn't bother me too much, but it is definitely, I guess in a world where more games are pushing to be more open, like to have a game that's much more linear, like much more, hey, the critical path is right in front of you and that's what you're taking. It is a little strange.
Yeah, I would call it a tailored experience. It's like
Mm.
you're really. I don't think too many people's experiences are going to vary too much differently. Like, because it's very like this is what we want you to experience. There's a very specific pace to everything. I feel like I never felt like it was ever wasting time. Like there was a lot of there. I wouldn't say a lot of side quests, but there's enough side quests involved where it's like, okay, here you can do these things. They're not overly involved. Like they're usually it's kind of a fetch questy thing. Like, oh, buddy over and Rosaria needs X item or something. Can you go get that? But the side quest itself has a point. Like there's story that's added into it. It's like so you might be needing to go do something for someone, but there's a backstory to it, and it gives you more context to the ongoing story.
Yeah, flesh out the world a little bit too.
Yeah, so I like that none of the side quests were a waste of time, but they weren't necessarily all that involved. Like it was more of a like
an MMO,
off.
like you said, fetch cheat quest or like, oh, go do this real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, I have not done like any side quests. I'm pretty much
think you need to.
Yeah, I'm pretty much
get through
critical path in this boy.
Yeah. Although I would suggest at the very end, and it'll be very obvious when it's time, like when it's about to be the end, they dump a whole ton of side quests, and everyone was definitely worth it. I enjoyed every one of them though. Like
was it like just from like a story aspect, or did you get
it was very much like we're gonna wrap up every loose end. If like all the side quests we're wrapping up all the loose ends for like every character.
Oh, okay, that's pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah, so it was definitely worth it with that. Like there was, I guess I can't name the characters.
Yeah. But well, I was gonna ask like, oh, like so and so, but that could, spoiler plus, who knows, that character could die for all I know.
Oh yeah, well that's the other thing is like this game has no fear about killing people off.
Yeah, it is definitely like. I mean, I can't imagine that didn't take some sort of inspiration from Game of Thrones, with just the grittiness of it. Right, like, so I guess we didn't really even touch too much on the story in the sense that the blight, right? So this is blight coming and sort of taking over the world, like slowly but surely, and with that, demons and all that good stuff, or monsters. And then like, but it's forcing, these nations to figure things out, right? Because some nations are getting covered with blight, with refugees nowhere to go, and then you know what I mean, in other countries, or sort of like, hey, no, get the heck out of here, you know what I mean? Like, we don't want you, kind of thing. So that's sort of like the over sensing arc going on there. And then obviously Clive, his kingdom falls pretty early. And I guess, like, again, I don't know how much we go into it.
I think it's fair because it's part of the demo. Like, so you basically,
when did you said, I guess, right around Benedicta?
Yeah, so the first part of the demo is basically like 16 or 17-year-old Clive, I guess it is, where I
really like that character model. He looks so cool. I mean,
he does.
Like all of Clive's like models I've seen look, but like I like him as a kid.
Yeah. So yeah, you kind of get the backstory of Rosaria is like where Clive is from, and his brother Joshua, and so Joshua is the dominant of fire, and
He's
demo ends.
Clive's younger brother, right?
Yeah,
because Clive wasn't a dominant, so they sort of skip over him.
Yeah, and so they're I can't remember, they went to Phoenix Gate, and I feel like there was somebody they were going to fight or something, and
essentially, right? We were talking about it before. I don't know how much.
Oh, was it the Ironbloods that they were?
Yeah, they that crystal in between them.
Oh, yeah, okay.
They were like, the plan was, I guess, before they do any bit of conquest or war, they always go to Phoenix Gate to sort of
right. Oh, to pay respects.
Whatever is going on over there, and then that's when things go wrong.
Yeah, they get double crossed by Clive's mother, who aligns with Sam Breck.
He's the
And
worst, man.
and there'll be I don't want to give it away, but
She's
she's
got
a
Cersei
central
vibes.
character later on in the game, and it's amazing. Like,
Yeah,
she's
she's
a
got them
terrific villain.
Cersei vibes, man.
Oh man, she's got that's a great character. Like you feel the hate
Yeah.
every time you see her. You
Honestly,
just
like I said, they've done such a good job with these characters that like I really so far I haven't met like a throwaway character, right? Like
yeah
I mean, and not counting NPCs obviously, but like characters that have been introduced into the story that are playing some sort of role have all been really interesting. And like I said, it hasn't felt like I've met anyone like, oh yeah, that like whatever throwaway character don't care about, you know.
yeah.
And I think that's awesome, you know, and that it, I don't know, that must be a Yoshi P thing because in 14, right, there's so many memorable characters that you fall in love with. And I mean, I guess that's really any RPG, right? There's lots of characters you end up falling in love with,
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't know. 15, like I said, I really like Clive's one of my favorite protagonists that I could think of in a hot minute.
Well, yeah, I think for Final Fantasy protagonists, he's up there. Like
Him and
one of the
Cloud, baby.
up there with Cloud. Like
I
he's got to be like 1 and 2 with those guys.
we got to get him in Smash so I can get an amiibo.
Well, yeah, it's like Clive is great. Jill is terrific. Um, Sid is amazing. I love Sid's deep. I love the deep voice, the deep Sid voice.
Gav and his I don't even know what accent that is really.
Yeah, it's
English or Irish or something.
Yeah, well, that's kind of like Irish or Welsh or something. Like it's yeah, he's a great character. Have you met Mid yet?
I don't think so.
Oh, you'll love her. Mid is amazing. I can't remember. She'll be coming along soon. So it was funny too because I couldn't believe like because they talked about her, like Sid talked about his daughter earlier in the game, and then I didn't think you'd actually meet her, but she ends up she comes and she's like a central character for the rest of the game.
And her name's Mid.
Yeah,
Sid and Mid. That's so good.
Yeah. Well, it follows what was it? I think it was it Final Fantasy VI or it might have been Final Fantasy V.
Sid had a daughter.
Yeah, that Sid had a daughter and her name was Mid.
Yeah, I wonder. Yeah, I don't remember that from 6.
Maybe it was 5 then. It must be because I just recently played 5 and I feel like that's where I.
Yeah.
But then now that I say that, I don't think it was a daughter. I think it was son. I think it was son. It was a son Mid. I'm
beautiful. Go either way. Switch.
Either way, she's a great character. Oh yeah, and I guess you can't get into others, but like so many people come along and they, like I said, it just feels like so emotional. Like like the protagonists, you fall in love with. The enemies, like you have visceral hate for. Like they just do a really really good job with everything.
They know how to rile up some emotions.
Yeah, for sure. I'm trying to think of like other and then I mean it has all the Final Fantasy stuff that you would expect. Like it has like all the icons are
common
from the common. Like you've seen them before.
Titan, Garuda, Ifrit, Phoenix, right? Like
yeah. Yeah, and that it might be a good time to talk about that whole Benedicta thing because one of the best parts of Final Fantasy 16 are the icon fights.
Yep.
Because I really don't know how somebody coded these things because every icon fight, like one after the other, like they just get bigger and wilder to the point where it's like, is my PlayStation 5 going to melt? Because
I was going to say the PS5's holding on for dear breath. Like,
yeah, it was funny. I remember hearing about people's PS5s bricking at certain points in the game. I'm like, I'm not surprised if that happened.
Pushing it to the limit. Yeah. And what I think it was like 120 gigs or something.
Oh yeah, it was a big file size.
It was definitely a big boy. Oh man.
But I was gonna say, like with Benedicta, I guess that's probably the best icon fight to talk about. That whole sequence was insane. Like from the point where, so you know, Sid's with you, and you get into this fight, and then there's, she wounds Sid, and you have this again, like they build up this hatred towards her. But then it's not just like well, she's bad, so you have to hate her, whatever. It's like, no, like there's a backstory. Like she, Sid was like her mentor when like found her off the street or whatever, and so they have a history together, and then you see like the backstory with like her and Kupta, and then the what's the guy, I'm blanking on his name, the dominant of Odin, Barnabas.
Oh
Like
yeah.
yeah, that whole connection, and then the fight on top of the church, like where you're first fighting her as Clive, and then she's like kind of half Garuda at that point.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then
There's like a half step. They tend to like. Oh, I can
yeah,
get beefy.
yeah,
She pushed in the left and right stick.
yeah, and then that fight was incredible, and then like the scenes, and then like Torgal, coming in and biting her right before she's like about to gut Clive or something, and then
Torgal's
there's
our faithful pup, by the way.
yeah, and then Torgal gets like thrown off the thing, and then Clive gets mad, and then it's kind of like that JRPG like Goku moment where
Yeah,
like
going Super Saiyan.
yeah, he's going super insane, and then so so you end up winning that thing, and then she starts to run away, and at this point is where you learn that Clive doesn't exactly steal. I wouldn't say he steals people's powers. It's more of borrows or copies, I guess you would
Like
say.
osmosis. He just
Yeah,
takes a little of it.
just sucks a little out, and so now he has like the Garuda, is able to use Garuda's powers. But yeah, like after that kind of initial hand to hand battle or whatever, she's trying to get out of the area, and then she gets jumped by thieves. And it kind of flashes back to or she has kind of a flashback of like her childhood, because I guess it was pretty pretty rough.
Yeah, not good.
No, and yeah, then she does that like insane, like becomes Garuda from like like just the pure emotion of like she's on the grit, just about to be murdered, and a few other things. uh, and then becomes Garuda, and then there's this massive where you take control of a fleet, and yeah, it's just insane, like to see all the special effects, and
The scale gets really really big.
yeah,
I mean, honestly, even just the scale of the crystals when you see them in the world, and even anything, right? I mean, it's a high fantasy elements to it for sure. Obviously, Final Fantasy, but like when, gosh, I guess it's the Castle of Sambrek, right? Which
yeah,
I
it's
guess would have been
yeah.
Rosaria, right?
Uh,
They yoinked it from them.
the what now?
Oh, I'm trying to think where like
Well, there's a crystal.
the first
In San
crystal
Breck.
you
There's a crystal
see.
that comes up from the castle. It's
Yeah,
like
like
split the castle in half, sort of look.
yeah. I
Yeah,
was that's the first crystal you see in the world, I think, or one of them. I don't
or
know.
I think it's one of the ones they show you. Yeah, the
Yeah, it's like
first one that
looks like an iceberg almost.
yeah, yeah. Um, and then I think the one that you just finished was the one. It's not in Rose. It's kind of between Rosaria and
Yeah, it's an island boy.
it's like yeah, an island. So that one's pretty crazy. They're all wild. Like
Yeah,
all the
visually, yeah.
yeah.
I've been taking lots of screenshots. But like even like obviously the crystals like are gonna look cool, but even just going through random towns and areas and just seeing the detail, it all looks so good. Um, I I guess just to talk a little bit about stuff that and we've been sort of gushing over here a little bit. Things that are sort of like I don't like. One thing in particular is sort of like you kill an enemy, right? And then like before like you hit the last HP like goes away from the enemy, and like instantly it's like it pulls almost like a Dark Souls kind of thing where it's like enemy slain or something, or like if it's like
Oh yeah, yeah.
ice dragon slain, and then then it'll show you like the XP and your gold and all that what you get, and then it'll go back to the back to sort of in game, and you sort of see the enemy fall over and die. To me, I don't like that. It's just, I would almost like, if you want to have like the enemy vanquished or killed or whatever, like you want to have that come up, but I don't like that it like pauses the game pretty much and like then shows you experience and all that thing and then
Yeah.
goes back to the action. Like I would rather see the action play out, right? Like, oh, I just killed this big bad boss. Like, you know, it was a 15-minute fight. It was epic. And then like, I want to see him crumble and die. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like
Well, especially
also
for the small enemies, like you didn't need it for every encounter. Like I could see like the not there's no like mini bosses, but like the big bosses, maybe it makes a little bit more sense that you kind of get a list. But like when you're just going in the world and there's kind of like
enemies slain.
yeah,
Like
you don't need the enemy slain. Like there's no music because like you get a little ditty of music when you beat a boss, but not when you beat regular enemies. And then sometimes they don't even drop anything, so the screen like shows like items dropped and there's nothing there.
honestly, I wish they didn't even show us that screen
Well, it could come like to me. They could have had it come up like in
as
the
you were
world
moving.
while like just like pop up on the left of the screen or something and be like, but just like you said, don't pause the game, just keep going.
Yeah, I like I said, that's I mean, and it's not something that I'm sitting here like, you know, and it's ruining the game for me. You know, it's not that bad, but it just like, yeah, it breaks up the flow of the game because there are definitely times where I kill like nobody enemies. Like usually it's like when I'm going from A to B out in the world and you like, oh, there's just some random, you know, plant monsters. And you kill them and they'll die and you move on and then you do see that like, oh, there's your little golden experience, like, and it doesn't slow you down, so they
Yeah,
do that sometimes. Like I said, yeah, if you want to throw it up there for the big boy bosses, but yeah, like the like, oh, the tough enemy out here, like I don't need to see that.
no,
Like I said, and essentially, yeah, it's like, all right, I get a couple items that are like crafting materials that I don't know or care about until I go to the blacksmith and it's like, oh, hey, cool, I have the materials to upgrade a new sword or something, you know. And then like the experience, I mean, the levels are all like, it's almost useless.
they're pretty arbitrary. Like
To me, it's
there's no
like,
choice.
yeah, like to me, that whole like that, oh, enemies killed, here's your experience screen with like your gold and your items you picked up. Oh, you leveled up. Here's the 2 points for every single thing, or 3 point, you know what I mean? Like it's every single time it's the uniform exact upgrade from the previous one.
Yeah,
It feels like 100%. It's like, this is in here because we want to remind people this is a Final Fantasy game, and it's a mainline Final Fantasy game. You get your experience in your levels. You know, I almost just get rid of it. You know, it's like, if you want to give me the levels, that's fine. But like, I don't know, just, you don't need to slow me down and remind me I'm getting experience and stuff. You know,
yeah.
like, let me just
Well,
play it
yeah,
out.
that could just happen in the background. Like it doesn't need to be in the forefront of like in your face. Like
Yeah, just like it's you know, and not that the game really has a, you know, for me at least so far, any pacing issues, but it does just sort of slow it down a little bit where it doesn't really feel like it's necessary.
mm-hmm.
Aside from, like I said, sort of reminding like, no, 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 guys, this is Final Fantasy mainline, like for sure. You know, you level up.
Yeah. Yeah, I know one of the other beefs I've heard people. I don't know if I agree with them, and I can't get too detailed in it because it does get into spoiler stuff. But I have read some stuff about people not loving the main enemy. I'm pretty sure you met the main enemy
Mm.
because it would have been in the. I'm pretty sure you meet him in the Rosarian Crystal.
Is an ominous character?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think it's a spoiler to say that I guess if you really don't want to hear this part, skip ahead a minute. But there's a character called Ultima, and you meet him pretty early on. Like it's at that first. I'm pretty sure it's the first crystal that you
Yeah, I believe. Yeah, because
that
that
you
like
break.
that's the first time you see it, and
Yeah.
it's like, who's that? You know,
Yeah.
like yeah, yeah. That was at the first crystal.
Yeah, like without getting into details, I'll just say like I thought he was a pretty decent villain. Like not a Kefka maybe, but
So
certainly
few are.
yeah. But Final Fantasy is riddled with so many like fake enemies where it's like, oh, like you think this guy's the bad guy throughout the game, but then you find out there's like the person behind it. It's a very Star Wars-esque. It's kind of like the whole Darth Vader and the Emperor sort of thing. Like, in
Yeah.
Final Fantasy. Oh,
There's an even bigger, badder boy.
yeah, I was gonna spoil a couple Final Fantasy games, but there's so many Final Fantasy games where it's like you go through like probably 90% of the game thinking this guy's the main villain, and then just to find out no, there was they're just really a puppet or whatever. Like there was someone controlling things behind the scenes, like the Emperor sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, but in this case, that's not like this is the villain, and there's like back and forth and push and pull and very like I don't know, like to me I thought they pulled it off really well, especially since like I'm already kind of predisposed of like am I supposed to really, is this like when will when you pulling the curtain and pulling out the real villain, like
when you duping me.
yeah. where's the old rope-a-dope? It must be coming. This is a Final Fantasy. But no, like it's I guess Final Fantasy VII doesn't do that. Like Sephiroth is the villain.
I guess it just more of his motivations and why he's going crazy get revealed, but
yeah,
I really
guess that's
Hojo's the real bad man in that one.
That's true. Yeah, I guess. Well, maybe that's just. I'll give them that. Like Sephiroth has a lot more layers, like a lot more complex of a character. Like I guess,
but he's. I mean, that's like
an all-time villain,
Ruth. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's right.
It's one of the best of all time.
Yeah. It's really hard to compare like this, once in a lifetime video game villain. So
what do you mean? This guy's not one of the greatest villains of all time? He sucks.
Yeah, this game's awful.
Yeah. No, yeah, I know, like, for me so far, the interaction's been minimum so far, so I don't have too much on that, but obviously as I continue to play here, we'll do that. I figure maybe at some point, I don't know, maybe a more spoilery cast, or Jordan wants to play this at some point, right? It's just a matter of time, I think, right?
Yeah, he's. I don't think he's bought it yet. I know he's going to, but yeah, it was. I think Diablo 4. I think it was just the thing is like he was really into Tears of the Kingdom. I think he just recently beat it, and then he was really into Diablo 4, and then he had all his review games going on. So I just think he wanted to give it more focus.
Oh man, Diablo, whoo-wee.
Yeah, and then Paige hasn't played it because I think her husband was playing she wanted to let her husband play through it first so that she didn't spoil anything for him. And then, but then she was the same thing. Like she had Tears of the Kingdom, and then she's playing Pikmin as well. So it's just
so much going on.
Well, and that's the thing with Baldur's Gate 3. It was that I was asking around with a few people of like, if are you picking this up? And everyone was like, man, there's too many games to play now. Like it's just a bad time to come out because there's so many blockbuster games all in a row now, and now you're kind of coming in behind them all.
Well, like I said, that's the good thing almost that the PS5 version doesn't come out for another month. It gives me some time. Let's see. Well, is it really an $80 game?
Yeah. Oh, I think it's even more on PlayStation because.
Well, that's what I'm looking at on right now. No, 80 on PS. It's on Steam. It's $80 too.
No, so for me, well, with Canadian.
Oh yeah.
So for me, it's $79.99 on Steam, which is $59.99 for you.
Yeah, I see $59.99 on Steam, and then I see $80 for PS5.
Yeah, and that was the same for me.
Oh no. Okay, no. They sent me to the deluxe one, so it is 70.
Yeah, but the standard's not that much cheaper.
Well, standard 70, but that's a standard.
Oh, okay, with 70. Game. Okay, so it's $10 more than Steam, I guess.
Yeah. Steam is.
Well, it's what a PS5 game costs now, I guess, like a full price.
Yeah, no. Well, that's why I was like, wait, it's defaulting to 80, but yeah, let's see. 80 gives you 3 days early. You could play it. You get some sort of packs and a couple of bonuses.
Not much.
Yeah,
it's basically 3 days early.
Well, that's it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. If you want to play early, that's how Diablo 4 got me to to bump up.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's
I
sort of dirty, but it is a good ploy to get an extra $10 out of people.
well, I think a lot of them are doing it now because I think I remember there was a Game Pass one of the Game Pass games, one of the that racing game, and I'm blanking for pretty for sure
Horizon?
Forza. Yeah, I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure
Forza Horizons, I think.
there was like you could buy some kind of upgrade. Like obviously you could play the game with Game Pass, like you don't pay extra. But I think if you paid like $20 extra, like as a one-time DLC or something, you got the game a week before anyone else, like a week before regular Game Pass subscribers get it. It was I don't know. It was
They know they dangle that early access in front of you.
yeah. They're it's a good way to scam another $10-20 out of people.
Oh yeah, and like I guess you could almost on a game like Diablo 4, you can almost be like, well, it'll also help with server load because it'll like sort of like you'll have
Yeah.
the 4 days of people slamming it, and then it'll get extra slammed, but
Yeah, those are
but
the
yeah,
hardcores too that'll probably be starting off early, and then maybe it'll slow down a little bit by the time everyone else starts getting in.
well, like you said, those hardcore people will be playing probably those 4 days and then some.
Yeah. Although that I guess the other thing too is it would give them like an idea of like, oh crap, our servers are already
Yeah, we're
over the
pooched
max.
and we're not
We
even
better
up.
turn a few
Yeah,
more on here or something.
quick. Yeah,
Yeah. Open the taps.
yeah. Although Blizzard's been pretty good recent, at least as for me, their launches have all been pretty flawless.
Mm.
I remember back in the day, yikes, Diablo 3 was an absolute mess. WoW back in the day used to be pretty bad, but yeah, no, they're learning.
Yeah. Well, do you have? I know you're like you said you're about a third to a half or so through. Any final thoughts as you continue going on through the Final
Yeah,
Fantasy 16?
yeah, I think I'm really enjoying it. It, like I said, the characters and the story very, very entertaining. It grasping you, right, making you want to go back for more. Solid gameplay, like I'm enjoying it. It's not flawless, but it's solid. It's like I said, I'm no glitches or anything weird like that. Yeah, I mean, there's a demo. Try it out. You know what I mean? If you're interested at all, or if you're somebody looking just for like a really good story, I think you could pick like an easy mode, right?
Yeah, there's like anyone who's scared of action RPGs, like
Don't
because
be.
they don't feel they're good at or whatever. There is so much accessibility that you like. There's no way you won't be able to finish the game. Like you can dumb the difficulty down to like the max where it's like they're barely even swatting at you. Like you'll
And
get through it. Like there's nobody worry about that. Like there's enough accessibility options that you'll be able to beat anything.
yeah, I'm playing on the regular, and it's not too hard, but like I have died,
Yeah,
but even in like a boss battle, if you die, it doesn't start you from the beginning. It starts you from like the last checkpoint, So like, oh, if the boss has two phases and you die in the second phase, he'll start right when he transitioned, and you'll be full potioned up.
yeah.
So it is definitely, it's not a hard game by any
Well,
standard.
and there's
If you're,
items that you can equip to that'll
oh
like do the
yeah,
combos for you. There's an item that gives you like a little it's like a bullet time where it's like slows time down
Witch
and it's
Time
like
from Bayonetta, yeah.
yeah, it's like hit R1 really quick and you won't get hit. And I'm like, okay. And then there's like an auto potion and like yeah, there's a lot of things. And then yeah, there's regular mode and then there's story mode that lowers the difficulty too. So
Yeah. So no, I think if you have any interest, definitely check out the demo. Like I said, I'm having a blast with it. Definitely going to keep on chugging through, and it feels good to actually play. This is really like my first mainline Final Fantasy game I really played near launch. Like,
yeah,
I mean, I guess unless if you want to consider the last expansion of Final Fantasy 14 I played right around launch. But other than that, like 7 I didn't get around to for like a year, like a remake and all that stuff. So it feels good to be sort of on the forefront here.
Mm. Well, speaking of 14 and their expansions,
Ooh, the new one.
are you picking up the new one?
Probably. It's funny because I feel like the trailer really didn't show much aside from like, ooh, it's very
Well,
visually appealing,
Yoshi
like
P has been busy.
yeah, it's true. And you see like a lot of, it's like, oh, it's really nice to see all the familiar faces. I imagine it, I think they said summer of next year.
Yeah, I think it's a ways away.
So that's good because hopefully there'll be a lull or something. But honestly, like I'll play it. All of the expansions have been like just as good as any mainline standalone Final Fantasy game. So I'll definitely
Yeah.
be picking it up.
Cool. Yeah, I might have to jump in at some point, but there's
You
my
still got a lot to catch up on.
I know I'm only on the first expansion. I still got like 4 more to go, I think, if I decide to
Oh,
get
yeah,
in
you,
there.
you better start chipping away now. Although
Yeah.
it's one of those, since you got to pay monthly, you gotta be committed.
Yeah, yeah. It's not. I feel like it's not a game where it's like, well, I'll just play this like a half-hour day while I'm playing something else. It's like, no, like if I'm going in, this has got to be the game.
Yep, yeah, and it's good. I would recommend it for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll just say like I guess just to
Yeah,
finish it
give
up
us
with.
your impressions as a guy who's put a bow on it already.
Yeah. I felt like it ended exactly when it should have. I
Okay.
I felt like I got everything I wanted out of the game. It didn't even when with the side quest dump at the very end. I didn't feel like it worn out its welcome. Still processing the ending. Is
Mm,
what I'll say. It was not what I was expecting. Little different, little different than I thought. But still, at the end of the day, like I still felt it was satisfying. Um,
interesting.
yeah,
Mm.
you have to. I guess what I'll say to people is when you're going. So, like I said, there's a point in the game where that there's
Yeah,
one
yeah.
battle left, and you have time to kind of wrap things up. There's all these side quests that you can do to kind of put a bow on all the stories and kind of get everything done, and then you're off to do this final fight. I would tell people consider that part like that's the ending, like the actual act of you doing the final battle. Consider like have it in your brain that this is the ending, like the ending, because what happens after that is a little strange. So I would just say as long as you have it in your head that that's the ending, it'll feel more satisfying than like the credits, I guess. That's what I'll say.
Interesting. Yeah, we'll leave it there.
Yeah,
I'm intrigued. I'm definitely intrigued.
yeah. So, but yeah, it was great. It was I would
Is it
I
a
don't
top 5 Final Fantasy for you?
know. Ooh, that's a good question.
I know it's early, and your opinion is going to change so much in a year. Looking back at it, I'm sure, but
I would say story wise, it would be like it would be it's Final Fantasy VII story quality. I would say like those are kind of like your top two. I would say
mm,
story wise. Gameplay wise, like the combat is just kind of for me, like because I'm not really an action RPG guy, so it's kind of low. I would rank it low on that, but
story
I
does
don't
some
know.
heavy lifting though.
It's got to be. I would say it's top five is probably fair.
Probably
It's
around like hovering in the lower part of the top 5, I assume.
yeah. Like I said, it does a lot of things that I like. Like the amount of emotion in the game is top tier. The stories are like it's the best voice acting in the game. It's probably some of the best character development in the franchise. Like it does so many things well. If and it can't be a turn based because that's just not where the world is anymore. Um, if it was a turn based, I think it would be for me. It might be number one. Like if
Mm.
it had a more turn based or some kind of strategic combat, even if it was
What if
Final
it had
Fantasy
like
VII
the?
remake
It,
style, I think I would have preferred that to this.
That's
But
literally, yeah. I was just gonna ask you if it was that. Yeah,
I feel like Final Fantasy VII remakes combat
they
is
strike a nice balance.
yeah, to me that's like the compromise for me. It's like I know this has to be action because that's just everybody wants action now. Like that's the if you're doing turn based, you're automatically niche. Um, but Final Fantasy VII remakes turn based, like it's turn based enough for that I still get enough of a flavor out of it. There's still enough strategy involved that it doesn't. You can play it and it doesn't feel actiony as much. I don't know if
No, I like you said, I think it hits a sweet spot of like it does give you that action faster pace, but you could slow it down and still have that sort of strategic a minute to think about it, and sort
yeah.
of do what you got to do.
Yeah. So yeah, it's up there. I definitely, and the other thing too is I feel like this is well, you played that remake of the, not, it's not Dark Souls, Demon Souls. How
Oh,
Demon Souls kind of showed off what the PlayStation, like, to me that was like, well, this is a PlayStation 5 game. Like, this is something that can't be on anything else. Um, Final Fantasy 16 to me is that same sort of thing. It's like, this is a showcase of what we were promised when the PS5 came out.
mm.
And I think Demon Souls still has that look, that it's like, that's in kind of that insane detailed look, and Final Fantasy 16 might be a little bit shy of that, but the vistas and all of the backgrounds and everything, I think, make up for maybe the pure detail on the characters. But
Yeah, no, those are two. I mean, yeah, it's so good looking. Like, the environments are out of this world. Yeah, like I said, I've taken way too many screenshots.
yeah, I could have filled my PS5 hard drive just with screenshots, and I did. Oh, I should share it. There was a. Oh no, I don't. I'm trying to think if I can say it. I think it's fair to say there's oh man, I'll tell you off.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know if I want
Better.
to spoil. There's this great line in the game at the end of the game that I just killed myself laughing, and I saved it. But it's so late in the game, I was like, can I share this? It's so awesome. It's like the epitome of JRPG. Like, oh man, it was insane. But yeah, I guess I'll just leave that as that's a treat that everyone can have when they get to the end of the game, and
A little breadcrumb at the end there.
when you kill yourself laughing, just remember that's what I was talking about.
Yeah. I'll text you and I'll be like, oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Well, I'll probably send you a screenshot.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, I guess that'll do it for this episode. Like you said, maybe down the line we'll have a spoiler cast for Final Fantasy 16 when we get a few more people having finished it, and kind of go from there. But yeah, I guess otherwise, some episodes we have coming up. I know everyone has been playing Pikmin, so I'm sure we'll sneak one of those in.
Oh, it's so good, dude.
Yeah, and then we got. Oh, what else? Jordan played Trails into Reverie, so when I finish, I'm sure we'll have an episode on that. Are you picking up Sea of Stars?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
For a second, I was like, what? Yeah, that's from Sabotage Games, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's coming up soon.
Yeah, I know Alex put in a couple requests for codes. I don't know if we're gonna get them or not, but it looks super good. And I met those guys at PAX, and they were really cool. So
yeah, I was in the Kickstarter, so I got a Steam code coming.
Ooh-wee. Yeah,
So,
it looks super good.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that, and yeah, I'm sure we'll have an episode on that at some point too. So, but yeah, I guess in the meantime, Casey, want to thank you for joining me and playing. It's good to have someone to talk about Final Fantasy 16 now.
Yeah. Sorry it took so long. Yeah, our schedules kept pinging back and forth, not working together. But finally here, yeah, I'm looking forward to keep playing it. And yeah, like I said, we'll have to come back at some point and talk about this crazy ending and all that good stuff.
Yeah. Well, until then, thanks everyone for listening.
Adios.